Wuthering Heights is weird, not just the movie, but the discourse. There's always gotta be discourse. This is directed by Emerald Fennell, who made Promising Young Woman. When that movie came out, there was a lot of positive reception. I really liked it. But then later on, a very loud group of people on social media decided to make it very, very clear that they do not like Emerald Fennell at all. They kind of act like she personally came to their house and kicked their puppy. She also made Saltburn, which didn't work as much for me, but it had some interesting things about it. But there has been a lot of backlash against Emerald Fennell as a director, and with this adaptation of the classic novel from the 1800s specifically, a lot of fans of that novel didn't think she was going to do a good job. I haven't read it, I have since done some research about it, but I don't have any kind of emotional attachment to the story. But a lot of these fans were saying things like Jacob Elordi's character is supposed to be darker skinned and Margot Robbie's character is supposed to be younger. They were saying, judging by the trailers, it didn't really look like it was properly adapting the story. They were even inventing conspiracy theories, like it was the finale of Stranger Things. There were people who were saying things like, what if she's not actually adapting Wuthering Heights? What if it's like a meta movie where a woman in the modern day is reading Wuthering Heights and inserting herself into the story? And that's what we're seeing on screen. No, it's obviously not that. So this is not the kind of movie that I normally would have even seen. I've never had interest in the book. It's just not really my kind of thing. But I felt like I needed to see it because I wanted to see what Emerald Fennell was going to do next, because I do like Promising Young Woman, and Saltburn at least had some interesting elements to it. And I also felt like I needed to just see what the fuss was about, be part of the discourse. And this is a strange one. This is essentially the story of two children who are raised basically as siblings, and they grow up and start banging each other. At least that's the story of the movie. I'm going to get into some plot elements because the book is 5,000 years old. I'm not going to discuss the ending or anything, so there are some changes in the movie, but I'm not going to spoil major events. I'm just going to talk about what happens along the way. But first, I want to give a lot of credit to the visuals of this movie. It looks beautiful. There are some absolutely stunning shots in this. The landscapes, this location, the costume designs, production design all around, it looks great. That really kept me engaged through a lot of the movie, just how beautiful some of these shots were. There's this great image of Jacob Elordi on a horse, silhouetted in like this passageway, and behind him is this deeply red sky. There are these great shots of a house covered in snow in the wintertime. It looks really nice. She's really stepped up her game in that department. The cinematographer did a fantastic job. The music was good as well. And I think the performances are good all around. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. But in general, what they needed to do, I think Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi did what they could with this kind of script. I found myself very uninvested in the characters, especially Margot Robbie's character, Kathy. As a child, she's kind of a brat. And I'm like, okay, she'll like grow out of that. No, actually, not really ever. She kind of just stays an asshole, and I never really cared. She only had romantic interests. That was like the only thing in her brain. That was the only thing devoted to her character at all, is who she would be with romantically. And, you know, maybe that's just the times. Women were just kind of like owned by their dads and then got to be owned by another guy, and that's what they got to do. But it's not a very interesting thing to watch for over 2 hours. And if she just had a little bit more going on with her as a person, or a little more likability, it would have been better. But she's kind of a dick sometimes, and also only cares about who she wants to bang. And so I'm just not really engaged by her character. Heathcliff, Jacob Elordi's character, has a little more going on, because he's the guy who disappears for years and then comes back super rich, and it's like, what the hell happened there? And I wish I could have seen that story, but there's at least a little more intrigue going on with him. But I really was uninvested in the romance, because the way the story ends up playing out and how their romance forms, there was no reason that I should have wanted them to be together at all. One of the discourse things, Margot Robbie being too old, I actually agree, because when the character is first seen as an adult, she's clearly meant to be what today we wouldn't even consider an adult. She is of marrying age, so, you know, like a teenager. She's clearly presented as being pretty naive and sheltered. Like, that comes through in the writing and even in Margot Robbie's performance. I think she does a good job selling it as best as she can. but there's just no denying that Margot Robbie is like 35 or something. And she looks like she's in her 30s. So it doesn't really fit. I don't blame her at all, but she just doesn't look the part. And that was another barrier that kind of kept me from getting into the character, where it felt like you are clearly older than you seem. If you seemed younger, I could excuse some of your behavior more, but I cannot get past Margot Robbie's very beautiful and very talented face, and yet clearly the face of someone in their 30s. And this is where some of the book changes come in, because when I finished the movie and I went and I did my research about the book, the plot, and the reception that it had when it came out, I was actually shocked to find out how different it is. This movie is what I always assumed Wuthering Heights was. It's just about two people fucking. No, that's actually not what the book is at all. They do not have a romantic relationship in the book. They have feelings for each other, but then shit happens and they literally never have sex. There is a whole ass montage. There's a huge section of this movie where it's nothing but them fucking over and over again. And that's not in the book at all. That's not what the book is about. It's a whole different thing. It's about all these like backstabbings and betrayals and Heathcliff getting revenge on people who made fun of him for being poor, and people die and people have babies, and there's like a whole bunch of other characters, and it goes on for a whole lot longer in the timeline, and there's a whole bunch of messy shit going on in the novel that sounds way more interesting. But this movie just distills it down to, but what if they were fucking? And like, that's the movie. And that's not as good. You can make changes to a book, but they have to be for the better. If they make the story worse, that's bad. I never found these characters likable or deep, so I had no reason that I should want them to be together. And Kathy, in particular, is married to, like, the nicest man in the world. He's, like, inhumanly nice, actually. It's crazy. And she's just cheating on him and banging Heathcliff all the time, and I'm like, this is fucked, dude. What are we doing? And while watching the movie, I was thinking, yeah, but I guess it's the book. You know, it's how the book is. It was written in 1847, I think. So, am I going to be that harsh on it? Only to then find out that part is not part of the book. That does not happen in the book. That's just Emerald Fennell. Maybe that happens in other adaptations. I don't know. I don't know if she's the first one to make it like that, but that is what she decided to do for this version, at least. And that's like the worst part of the movie, and it's her major contribution. She wanted to make it sexier. I'll just say this, the opening scene of the movie is a man being hanged, and after he is dead, we get a close-up of his cock. Not like bare, but like the dick imprint of his pants. Okay, I guess that's the kind of Wuthering Heights that we're in for. You know what, for all I know, maybe that's in the book. Maybe Emily Bronte was like, and then the children in the town square saw his cock. I doubt it. The book has a lot of much darker elements to them, and for so much of this movie's runtime, it's treated like it's just a romance that I was very uninvested in. And when some of those darker elements do come into play later, it almost feels like a mishmash. Like, it feels like those are the book, clearly, and then all the other stuff is very clearly Emerald Fennell. And it feels like she wanted to turn the book into something else entirely, but knew she couldn't go too far. She knew she had to keep some things the same, and so she had to include some of those darker elements in the third act. But by the time she does that, it just doesn't really feel like it meshes with everything she had done before, and it almost feels like two different creatives battling it out within the same story, because that kind of is what it is. I don't know if it's just that she read the story when she was younger and misremembered it or misinterpreted it, or she decided to do this instead, decided to make it more of a straightforward romance. But it's weird, because these are not likable people, and their relationship is bad. It is toxic as fuck. It is not enjoyable to watch, and as the characters go on throughout the story, they get worse and worse as people. They start doing worse and worse things. And that fits much better, the tone and the story and the message of the book, whereas so much of what you were doing in the movie just feels at odds with that, and by the time you finally start doing that, it feels like it's too late, and it doesn't really feel like it fits with all the other changes you made. Like, if you want to change it and have it just be full-on sexy, do that. Like, commit to the full change. Make it as sexy as possible. If you read the book and you were like, I just want to fucking bang the shit out of Heathcliff, and I want to make a fantasy for all the ladies out there, or the guys, whoever, to imagine that they're doing that. Go all the way with it. But then you can't get that. You cannot watch this movie and think, oh, so romantic. I want to be in her place. Because it's toxic as fuck. And it gets weird and dark. And it's a situation you would not want to be in. And that's what the book is about. That's like a footnote in the movie. The movie's mostly about fucking. And if I wanted to see step-siblings fucking, I can get that on the internet for free. There's a lot of shit with this movie. It's weird. It's going to be a whole lot of discussion from book readers. And as somebody who hasn't read the book, but thinks that this is a worse version anyway, I don't know how to rate it. It's beautiful looking. I was engaged because of that and because of the performances. And at the beginning, I did want to see where it was going to go. But then when it turned into all of these just very stereotypical romance tropes that aren't even in the book, were just original for the movie, a very toxic relationship that was not enjoyable to watch whatsoever, and adding elements from the book willy-nilly that just seemed like they didn't really fit. I don't know what number to give it. I don't know what the reception of this is going to be like. There's a lot of loud people who have hated it before it even came out and will hate it. But generally, there have been a good amount of positive reviews that I've seen so far. But man, like Wuthering Heights fans of the book, I feel like you got to be really open to a different interpretation. Because if you want to see the book adapted, you're not getting that. And then general movie-going audiences, I don't know, you might like the fancy dresses and the nice colors, but this is not a relationship you can invest in at all. So I can't give it like too bad of a score, but I can't give it a positive one either. We'll just put it at a 5, tentatively, just to mean I don't really give a fuck what number I give it. I think I've made myself clear. I think I have explained myself and how conflicted I am about this and how it was not exactly an enjoyable experience. It was very long that I had to spend with these characters that I was not invested in. And it was made worse after the fact when I researched the book and found out about all the changes. But it had a lot of strong technical elements going for it, and it's not like the worst thing. Like, would I rather rewatch movies like Whistle or The Strangers Chapter 3? Yes, because they're 90 minutes, easily digestible horror, shitty horror, but I'm a horror fan, so I can put up with it. But also those movies offend me more, because I am such a horror fan. I get pissed off when you make this like low-effort crap that treats horror fans like we're stupid. Whereas, since I'm not a fan of Wuthering Heights, this doesn't offend me. I was mostly just bored and confused, while also thinking it was pretty. Not really a Valentine's Day movie. It's kind of weird for that. But leave your thoughts down in the comments. This was just all my scattered opinion. There was a lot to say. If you've read the book, how does it compare? Were you way into it? Did you think it was weird? There's probably a lot to talk about, so let's do it down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more from me. I got a couple more reviews coming. I wasn't even planning to review this first. I've got like 3 videos I need to make. This was honestly originally gonna be third, but I'm doing it first because there's so much to say. I felt like I needed to get this out there, but leave all your thoughts, subscribe so you can see all the other stuff I got coming. I appreciate the support, and I hope to see you next time.